Welcome back to the SSI Executive Conversations podcast. On today's episode, Darwin is joined by Berk Tas, the CEO of CENTIAR, an electrophysiology technology company. On part one of three, Darwin and Berk talk about the background of CENTIAR, startup culture, and Berk becoming a CEO.
Welcome to the SSI Executive Conversations podcast. Super excited. Today we have an incredible guest joining us and a good friend, Berk Tas. Berk is the CEO of CENTIAR, a digital health and software company that's doing remarkable things in the industry. So Berk has decades of experience in the med tech ecosystem, focusing on R&D and operations initially. He's highly motivated and experienced leader. At LSI, I think anybody that gets the opportunity to be around him is just, it's a privilege with his energy and that he brings into any conversation or room, and his passion for what they're doing there. He is really an experienced leader, high speed product development expertise, who brings new products to market utilizing innovative technologies. It's really constantly looking for opportunities in the intersection between who we are as humans and our needs, environmental and social responsibility, and business interests. And I'm always privileged when I get to have some of the conversations that we've had at conferences. So with that, welcome to the show, Berk. I couldn't be more excited to have you on as a guest, my friend.
Thank you. Wow. You know, uh, Decades. I've tried to forget. It's S. It's
We're
all
not getting any younger, my friend. We're not getting any
you know,
younger.
my Santa Claus beard reminds me routinely. Yes. Thank you for that. Thank you for that amazing instruction. It's really nice to be talking to you. It's really nice to um, be seeing you, even though it's virtual.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Well, let's talk about what you're doing at CENTIAR. It's remarkable, incredible innovation, and then the product recently received its FDA approval, which is really exciting. So, why don't you tell us what's going on there?
Sure. Thank you. So, Centiar was formed by a practicing electrophysiologist, a physician that's focused on treating cardiac arrhythmias. Perhaps folks listening may have heard there's a very common disease called AFib.
Hmm.
Most likely, someone you know, or perhaps you have had it before. It's a type of an arrhythmia. And the folks that treat these types of issues are called electrophysiologists.
Hmm.
Um, So one of the co-founders of Centiar is an electrophysiologist, a pediatric electrophysiologist, practicing at WashU. And her husband, who is a biomedical engineering professor, runs a lab at WashU, came up with this idea. And really the idea is born out of the issues. Jen Silva is her name, the electrophysiologist. The issues Dr. Silva deals with on a day-to-day basis in the operating room. And John, her supportive husband, he is and an innovator himself, thought that this could be a great opportunity to solve a big unmet need. So the people, now that we set the stage, the heroes behind
Yeah.
the technology, um, what's the villain that they're fighting? So the idea is uh, creating a 3D hologram of the patient's heart that the physician is operating in real time while allowing them to control the image that they see.
Hmm.
So today, the standard of care, there is imaging done in the room, but it's displayed in 2D monitors, which has been around for 50 years probably, if not more. And a lot of the information that is gathered by the imaging system is lost and compressed to a 2D setting. In addition to that, the physician who is operating has no ability to control the specific view they have while they're operating. So what we do is we integrate with this imaging system. We create a real-time hologram that they see through glasses, specialized custom-built glasses for this type of purpose. And they're able to manipulate the hologram they see to get the exact personalized view they want when they want to see it, in addition to being able to go fully inside the heart by pushing their head forward simply, and be able to go inside, which is clearly not possible when you're looking at a monitor,
Right. It's
as you can
remarkable.
imagine. So that's the basis of the technology. And when they started this 6 years ago, and I joined them a year after, uh, clearly people thought we were crazy. That, like, yeah, they're like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Um, Come back to me when you grow up and you have, yeah,
when you have something real to talk
when you
about,
have
right?
something real and you're not just like, flying and imagining things. So, and we did that. We came back when we grew up, and we got FDA clearance. Product has been used clinically now in almost 100 cases in multiple institutions. And we have a list of new institutions that are going to come on and use the device. So it's been a remarkable journey, starting from the essentially the lab and a very, very small company. One of the other co-founders, Mike Southworth, who was instrumental in getting all of the software we have today architected and written. Uh, that was, a very small band we had,
Hmm.
where we were playing different instruments at the same time. I always remember is it, what's that nanny movie where the guy's playing all the instruments, the chimney sweep? What
Oh,
movie am I thinking of? Where she has this like magical bag, everything comes out of it. Do you know the movie I'm talking about?
Mary Poppins? You talking about Mary?
Yes. Yeah, Mary Poppins. Isn't Chimney Sweep in that movie?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's right, man.
Remember how he's playing all the instruments and he's
Uh-huh.
dirty and he's just like, but
That's the startup
yeah,
world, though. If you're not
that's
ready to,
the, like,
if
yes,
you want to play one instrument, you do not want to
right.
go
A-
to a startup.
And if you want to be clean and have your like, have your world, this is going to be different. But just like him, we have a lot of fun.
Ha-
It is a
t-
magical world.
Talk about how you became the CEO and when you first were introduced to the technology and the opportunity.
Yeah. So we met through a third party. Often it happens. Actually, someone else that does your job
I know.
got us got us
They do a great
connected.
job. They do an amazing job.
um, yeah. So we met through a third party, and um, at the time, I was working on a transaortic valve replacement project. Um, Also very impactful. Very different field, obviously, from a mostly software.
Hmm.
But I would say this, I think for me it was at first about the people. Who are these co-founders and are these the types of folks I want to get dirty and play multiple instruments with?
Right. Right.
you know,
Do you
are
want a
these
chimney
the
sweep with them?
right? Like, are these the type of people that you can put your back against
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and uh, you know get in the arena and um, go to work every day knowing that the you're you're accepted as you are,
Hmm.
and there are nothing else, no other agendas at play. It's only what is the system supposed to do for the patients and for the physicians.
Yes.
And it was an amazing conversation I had with all three when we first met. It was first over the phone. We weren't as attached to Zoom at that time, so it was a phone call.
Right. Right.
Um, if you can believe that, right? It seems weird that we would
Well,
have a phone
I,
call,
when
something like that,
after the pandemic hit, I mean, we do everything on
right?
video. We every first conversation is on, unless they're leaving work, or whether it's a manager
In the
or
car or
talent.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so they're they
Yeah.
need to be on the phone, but I would say 90% is via video. We do all our preps on the video. It's like, why didn't we do this before?
I know.
Almost, right?
I
It's like,
know. It
and when
seems really
somebody,
weird.
if we have we're working on a role, and the partner company, they're like, hey, we're going to have we'll have a phone call. What's the process going to look like? We manage expectations. Well, we have this call. I'm always like, you know, trust but validate, right? It's like, what, you don't really mean a phone call, right? You mean a video call. Like, why
Right,
would you
right.
have a phone call with anybody in
Yeah.
this day, knowing what we know now? Because you get obviously there's nuances in reading
Yes.
facial expressions, and there's just things you can miss on a phone call when you don't do that all the time versus being on a
Yeah.
video call.
Well, clearly, right? It's a engagement, a different level
Right.
of engagement. But at that time, it was the phone call, and and uh, you know, now knowing all the players, it's obviously at that time it seems like a surprise, but it was very engaging. I felt like we have known each other for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, and the second thing that popped out at me is the willingness to learn. Knowing that it's going to be a battle, and the things that we're thinking right now are probably wrong.
Hmm.
Are we going to be able to grow together and be willing to be wrong together,
Right.
and then actually go ahead and find the right answers? So that was the most important thing for me. It wasn't my first time, so I had the privilege of having other experiences that colors your it puts a filter, right? So you can see. Weird, my computer just tried to tried to go sleep. What a weird thing. Um, anyways, so that was the most important thing, and I found that with the co-founding team, and I think from there, once you have that ingredient where the principles of the business can learn and grow without this fear of being wrong or
Hmm.
being judged by their own teammates,
Right.
then literally, if something is worth doing, it is possible. That part is important, right? Is it worth not every problem is worth solving,
Solving. Right. That's a very,
right?
very smart question to ask.
Right? But if it is, and if you got that ingredient where you can learn and grow together, it's doable. You can do it. I wholeheartedly believe that. And that's why I'm like, okay, say no more, right? I don't care what the product is almost. Like, we
Well,
can do
and
this.
you look at the two comments that you just made, super smart, but 30 plus percent of companies don't make it year one that are startups, right? Everybody knows typically the number is 50% of those that make it aren't around 5 years later. 70% across all industries don't make it 10 years. Being in business is hard. Starting a business, scaling a business, growing a business, right? And so, is it worth, obviously, that question, is it worth solving? What's the ROI look? Is it going to be safe, reproducible? If it's not
Mhm,
cost effective, then you can't make any money. You're not, what's your runway look like in terms of
mhm,
capital? But as you think about the startup world, or you go up the ladder of responsibilities, up towards the C-suite, I mean, the question almost always is, hey, look, I know I'm going to work hard, right? Am I going to be excited about what I'm working on, and am I going to enjoy the people I'm going to be working on? As you said earlier, can I trust them? Can I be myself? And is it
mhm.
going to be a cultural fit? Because the cost of mishires are enormous, and obviously, as you get up to the C-suite area, as you go up the ladder of responsibilities, the cost of that mishire relevant to opportunity cost, it expands
Exponential.
significantly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Totally. Um, it's a very good point. It is exponential, and when you're growing a startup, or like initially you're giving birth to it and then you're
Hmm.
growing it,
Right.
uh, it's very much like a baby. So the things that apply to raising a baby really apply to growing a startup. And as the principles of the business, people who are in the C-suite um, do have a responsibility to create an environment where that startup can flourish. They really do. It doesn't happen on accident. It's
Right.
very much like a baby, right? You can't accidentally raise a baby.
No, no, you
You know,
cannot.
it's going to require your attention and it's going to challenge you, he or she
Hmm.
or they, and it will put you in, the circumstance, the situation you're in is going to really stretch what you think is comfortable. And then, when you do it again, second, third, fourth, 10 kids,
Right.
you probably develop a different expectation around it. So I think, at startups, it's very similar, very, very similar. Expectations slowly change as you get more acquainted with what a startup is and what it's like. And then you don't want to do anything else, really. You just want
Yeah.
to give birth to these technologies that has the potential to change the world, new ways of doing things, and new looks at age-old problems, and some of them are problems that have never been attempted to solve.
Right.
So, um,
Well, you have to
the
be around
excitement
people
is
that
there.
think differently,
You
right?
really do. You
You
really
really have to
do.
be around people that think differently, that have a significant amount of curiosity with integrity, because curiosity is huge, and being able to look at something and be open to it being a different answer than what you expect.
Gosh, the vulnerability that comes with that,
Hmm.
right? How so like you got to think about how you define success if you're going to do this kind of thing.
Right.
And um in my opinion, if you can attach yourself to asking the right questions and learning as your success,
Mm.
I think you would find a different level of comfort being in a startup. Like, have I
Yes.
learned something today?
Right.
What
Yes.
what have I learned today that I'm going to apply tomorrow for us to reach our goal? Uh, I think that helps, along with being around people that think similarly and having a culture created by the principles of the business, the C-suite we call.
Hmm.
Right? So those ingredients, 3, 4 ingredients that are key to having an attempt at a successful startup, right? There are
Yes.
no guarantees. You
No,
only
no,
you you
but in
know?
terms of what you just said, right? Curiosity is key. I think a spirit of thankfulness,
Yes,
grace, thankfulness. People that are thankful tend to get along better well with others, I think in
sure.
general. And then at the end of the day, everything that we look at when we partner with companies is uh, helping them not just attract. It's not about finding people in this day and age, right? But attracting them, and then understanding what their personal why is. Why do they get up in the morning? What's exciting for them? Because if the personal why matches the mission statement, then you're more likely to have higher employee engagement. If you hire people with high emotional intelligence that are problem solvers and they get along well with others, which means you'll
Mhm.
have less wasted resources and potentially have the ability to grow, have sustainable profitable growth or more measurable profitable growth.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't add anything to what you just said. I think all aspects of what you just laid out are universally true when it comes to a startup. Those things are very critical. It's a little different than an established business. I think that's
Yes.
also important to contrast that, right? Like an established business is going to have KPIs that are
Right.
well established and have history. And I've seen this at different startups. You try to implement KPIs that are designed for an established, long lasting, mature business to a startup, then you start chasing things that don't matter.
Right. Yes.
I used
That's
to call it polishing the doorknobs of your house when you don't have electricity, right?
right. Right.
It doesn't apply. It's just, it's not, it's a different, is polishing a doorknob nice thing? Probably. It will make your house look nice. Like it's not a bad thing. It's just not a priority,
Right.
you know?
Not even the top 20. Doesn't even make the top
Not
20 or 30 on
doesn't
the
even
list.
make it. Exactly. So if you try to apply KPIs that you've lifted from your big company experience and apply it to a startup in the attempt to mature the startup, right? Let's say they have a product and now it's time to mature, which happens, right? You've established and you earned a right to exist now. You're a startup.
Right.
And you lift those KPIs and you go, okay, here's how you grow. Because I've seen growing, a company that's $60 billion, and then I know where you are. Here's how you get there.
Uh-huh.
Slap these KPIs on, and then overnight you ruin the business because it just doesn't work like that, right? Like,
No, you really have to understand what your vital few are, what your
yes,
you have to
yes,
you have to you don't want you certainly can't do this at a startup, right? You can't be compartmentalized. You can't be in separate silos. But at the same time, how you've got to define what your vital few that you're trying to measure and what purpose does it serve to measure it, and then once you understand that and you can quantify what that looks like, you've got to start someplace, and then as your company grows, you can add additional KPIs, but you really have to be
yes,
specific about what it is you're wanting to evaluate and what you're wanting to get out of that data, and is it going to be relevant?
yes, like that mindfulness, right?
Hmm.
Just looking at a big company, oh, we measured this, we should measure it here. But why? Or what
Right.
exactly do you want out of this? And for me, I think about, all right, well, now my baby is walking. I want them to go to Harvard, but obviously, I'm not going to put them in front of a SAT test right now. Like that doesn't
Right.
make sense. If I
Right.
want to measure their success today, which what I'm talking about is crazy. No one should do this with their kids, but just
Right.
thinking about that analogy, right? You wouldn't do that. You look at someone who puts a GRE test in front of a baby like they're crazy.
Uh-huh.
To be like, What are you doing?" It's like that for a startup. It literally is that crazy, but it happens all the time. I've seen
Hold
it.
on.
I've seen it myself.
What I'm picturing as you talk about this, right, is like, maybe countries with less freedom where, okay, I'm going to choose you at the age of 4 based on testing. You're going to be in the Olympics. So now, but that may not be best for your company culture either, right? In terms of
Sure.
how people want to feel
Yes.
about being a part of something. Man, I think we could just have this conversation like for another hour and not even get to the other things that we're supposed to talk about. But
Yes.
man,
Yes.
what a great conversation. Such really strong insights, my friend.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the SSI Executive Conversations podcast. If you'd like to see more, please follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube and RSS. Visit ShurigSolutions.com to learn more about SSI and receive a complimentary consultation.